Okay, amigos, so we'll see how this goes. But last year, I know I was teaching this and I thought, oh, this will be easy. And then I gave the students an assignment and it was a total disaster and they were super frustrated, which caused me frustration. So hopefully, I'll do a little bit better job trying to explain this. So basically, what we're doing here is we have this verb ser and we have this verb. It's actually called the root form is haber. And in the imperfect tense, this verb is había. And in the imperfect tense for ser, it is these right here, right? Era, eras, era, éramos, eran, or erais, and eran. So the confusion really is, or the frustration I think that some students had when we were going over this first time last year is that if we were to say something like, let me give you an example. If I was to say, there were 5 boys in the street or something. Boys in the street. Right. So, and then if I was to say, the boys were tall, right? So, boys were tall. I should say right? The boys were tall. So in English, we're using the same verb in each of these. So we're saying there were 5 boys. The boys were tall. Well, the difficult part of this for people learning Spanish, if they're translating everything in their head, like what does this sound like in English? If you're translating for meaning, what ends up happening is you think, well, this is the same word as this, so those are interchangeable. And that's just not the case here. In Spanish, these are two different situations. In this first situation, for example, we have this situation where there were 5 boys. We're just saying there existed 5 boys. They were there, they were in the street. That's what was happening, right? Where in this situation, we're describing that the boys were tall. We're describing what they were like. We're describing them as people. And so one's just saying what there was, one is saying what they were like. And that's the difference between these two. So if I can help you at all understand, kind of how to keep this straight in your mind, it is probably to emphasize this part right here where the verb ser is used for describing what someone or something is like, right? So if it's describing their characteristics in the past, right? That's why we're using the imperfect. So maybe I should circle that imperfect. Then, and we're describing what it was like, we're going to use one of these verbs here. Now, on the other hand, if we are just simply saying what existed, what was there, right? So, what was there, right? What there used to be, what existed. I like this word existed because it helps me kind of place in my mind that I'm just saying that, oh, they existed, they were present, right? That's going to be this haber verb, había. There's only one form here that we're going to use today, and so you don't have to worry about conjugating it. It's already conjugated in its one awesome singular form, había. Right. So now here we're saying there were many small children. We're just saying what there was, what existed, right? And so since we're just saying what existed, we're going to use había. Había muchos niños. What existed? Niños existed, right? There were a whole bunch of them. So that's the difference between the ser and the haber verb. So I think what would be useful is to go ahead and look at some of the exercises and kind of get a feel for this so that it makes sense. So this is the assignment that I have created. I have a Go formative for this, and I want you to take a look at these examples. And I may give you some answers here, but again, I'm not concerned about giving you answers. I'm concerned about you understanding in what situation you use these. So it's not about getting the assignment done. It's about understanding how they're different in each of these cases. So in the first sentence, number 1, we have era and había. So what we're describing is una casa, right? So I'm going to choose a little darker color here. But we have una casa, and what we're trying to say is that the casa is grande. So if we look back at our thing here, if we're describing what it was like, what was the house like? it was grande, right? So we're describing the house. So we're going to say that probably the best choice here is era. We're going to say era una casa grande. And then we're going to say it had 4 habitaciones y 3 baños. So we're just saying that existed in this house. There in existence were 4 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. We're not saying what they were like. We're just simply saying that the house had these things. So because of that, we're going to select había there. So there is our first couple of examples of how to use these. First one, era, because we're describing what it was like. It was a big house. Second one, había, because we're saying what existed within that house. So let's do a little bit more. See if we can. Oops, that was not what I wanted to do. See if we can make this a little bit clearer. In our second example here, we have eran or había 2 perros. So there were 2 dogs. They were traviesos and juguetones. So they were mischievous and playful. So I think it's pretty clear that in the second part of this, we're describing what they were like. They were mischievous and they were playful. So because we're describing what they were like, we would use our ser verb, and so we're going to use eran. In the first example, we're just saying there were 2 dogs. 2 dogs were in existence. So because of that, because we're not describing what they were like, we're going to choose había. So that's how that would work. Number 3, mama. So mama was a good cook. Always there were delicious postres, right? Delicious desserts. So I think here we're saying she was a good cook, right? That's describing what she was like. What was mom like? Well, she was a good cook. So that's a ser verb because it's describing what she was like. And then here it's just saying it's not describing the postres. I guess it is a little bit because it says they're delicious, but really what we're saying is mom was a good cook, so there were always delicious desserts. So we're not saying what they were like. I mean, we do have an adjective here, but really we're just saying that they existed. There were always these delicious desserts around in existence because she was a good cook. So we're going to choose había for that one. A little bit tricky because we have this adjective here which can confuse you, but really we're saying that they existed, so choose había. Number 4. In number 4, what we're doing is we're going to describe my brothers, mis hermanos. So mis hermanos were traviesos. They were mischievous, and they always, siempre, were, and there were always toys on the floor, right? So my brothers were mischievous. They were mischievous. So mischievous is an adjective describing what they were like. What they were like is going to be a ser verb. So there's our answer. And there were always toys on the floor. So what existed on the floor? Toys existed on the floor. So it's not describing the toys. It's just describing that they existed. So we're going to use había on that one. So hopefully this is helping you out, starting to get a little bit clear. Our last one, we're saying mi abuela, my grandmother, was kind, and there were cookies in her house, right? So the cookies is what existed. So use the existed form here. And in the next one, we're saying what she was like. She was kind. So that should be our ser verb in the first part. So hopefully that is a little bit clearer than it was when I started. If not, please just ask questions and I'll help you out.